So it is recording right now, and I will post it to YouTube and send you guys a link. You can go back and watch it again later if you missed something or want to see something again. So first of all, when it comes to Zoom, you have to understand you all have a basic account. And if you signed up for this at their regular website, zoom.us, you'd be given a basic account, and the basic account would give you up to 100 people in a meeting, up to 40 minutes at a time. So basically what happens after 40 minutes on the free account, boom, it cuts you off. Now, I've been using this program 3 or 4 years, teaching at Florida Southern, and I had that account for a while, and I had to make sure my chats with my online students were only 40 minutes or less, otherwise it would cut me off. I'd have to start a new meeting after that. Because of the situation going on, Zoom has been fantastic working with our district, and they have given us an unlimited time limit, but you still have 100 people per class. So that's the limit, 100 per class, but unlimited time in that piece. You're saying to yourself, wait a minute, Scott, you said we have 120 people in here. How are you doing this? Florida Southern, my employer, part-time, has given me a pro account. And so I can put 300 people in the chat if I need to. And I have unlimited time because I use this thing on a regular basis. So that's number one about Zoom, just to understand that piece. After July 31st, you go back to the same 40-minute time limit unless you want to pay for the upgraded version. Second thing, I want you to write this down. It's FERPA, F-E-R-P-A. If you're not familiar with that, it's the Rights and Privacy Act for students. Because we are going to be putting students into Zoom, many of you will, there are some privacy things we need to be familiar with and careful of. So that is, you're not going to post student videos online. That's one thing to think about. So I'll show you some features today. There is a general recommendation that you do not use student videos. You turn them off, and I'll show you all those features in a moment. However, I understand many of you, especially elementary folks, they're going to want to connect with you by seeing you. Even some of you middle school folks, yes, the hormones with feet are going to want to connect with you. They are missing you right now, believe it or not. And yes, even the high school people, some of them are missing you too. Not all, but some. And so you may want to have videos on, but if you're going to record the session and put it online, you definitely want to have the videos off. And I'll show you both ways to do that today. Also, I recommend anytime you're communicating with students via an online means like this, you do record every chat. And that is to cover you. It's kind of like that whole archive thing you have in email. Because Zoom is not a district archived platform, you can archive yourself by recording every session. And I'll show you that feature as well. Well, hello, young man. How are you? Ellis, Lizzie Ellis, how are you? Doing all right? Yeah, were you in the pool? Is that why you have no shirt on? I get it. I get it. All right, so let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you guys a whole bunch today. So I'm going to first start by sharing the Clever login page. And this is where you're going to start all of your Zoom sessions by going to Clever first and then logging into your district Clever account. They gave this information here today. This just changed yesterday. So it tells you how to log in with Active Directory. And again, it's going to be your Lawson number at hcps.net and your district password. You click sign in. It takes you to your Clever dashboard. And it should look something like this. Now, I have a favorite section. Last spring, I spent a lot of time at James teaching 5th grade math science. So I favorited things like iReady, Khan Academy, Common Lit, Typing Club. This spring, I have favorited Zoom because, well, I'm going on Zoom every single day. It may not be up here for you. If it's not, that's okay. You scroll to the bottom of your page where you will find the Zoom icon waiting for you in More Apps. If you want it to go to the top in the favorites, all you do is click the little heart, and it will show up here at the top in your favorites every time. Also on this page is the e-learning for school closure information. And this, ladies and gentlemen, keeps changing daily and hourly. And so you want to go and check this stuff very often. And your supervisors in content are putting out new resources and new stuff for you guys every day. The same way we in PD are putting out webinar after webinar. They've been working nonstop on this information here. So to get to Zoom, you click on the Zoom link. It takes you and logs you in automatically with your school district email. And the reason why that's so important is that gives you the lifted time limit. Now, the first time you do this, you may get a request to merge your account with a guy named Troy Suarez. All right, please know Troy Suarez is not a stalker. He's not after children. He is our supervisor of instructional technology, and he set all this up for us. So by merging your account with his, you get this 40-minute time limit lifted between now and the end of July. If you didn't accept it the first time, it's okay. Eventually, at one point, it will ask you again to do it. I'm not sure when it comes up, but it does. This dashboard here just tells you a little about your account and some background information. But I'm going to show you guys 3 things on the website that are really key and important to you. Number 1 is the meetings tab over here. I'm going to click on the meetings tab, and this shows you all your scheduled meetings. You can also start a new meeting or schedule a new meeting right here, which I'm going to do right now. I like to schedule my meetings ahead of time, so I've got all the settings the way I want them. I don't have to go back and do it later or worry, oh, God, the kids are coming on in 2 minutes. I got to make sure the settings are right. I have this stuff done well ahead of time. So I'm going to call this my fake meeting number 6 because I've been doing this all day. You can laugh at me anytime you want, by the way. I've been sitting in this room with my computer and the 4 walls for 3 days doing this. So here you go. I'm a little crazy after 4 times in one day. You can change the date. So I'm going to make this on Sunday. We're going to have a real late hour, 11 p.m., and we're going to make it last for 2 hours. I'm just putting numbers and dates out there. Now, first of all, the date is important because it tells you what date the meeting is. The time and the duration are not as important. They're more calendaring features. In other words, they're there for a calendar purpose if you wanted to put a reminder on your calendar. Just because it says 11 o'clock doesn't mean I can't start at 10:45. In fact, Carrie and Paul and I were on at 2:45, kind of talking before you guys came in. Duration's kind of like a calendar piece too. It's not going to cut you off after 2 hours like that. It's going to go until you stop the meeting. Time zone, we keep this set up as Eastern. That's fine. Recurring meeting. This has no purpose for me because my meetings are different from day to day. You're the 4th different group I've had. But let's say you wanted to set up office hours in the afternoon from 1 to 2 every day for your students to pop in and out and ask you questions. You might set up a recurring meeting. So every day, Monday to Thursday, you're available from 1 to 2 p.m. Let's say you decide you're going to do a math lesson if you're elementary, or your first period class if you're middle school at 9 o'clock every day. You might set up a recurring meeting, so that's set up every day for you. And what that does is you don't have to keep sending new links. If I had done that for this meeting, the same link I sent you guys earlier today and last night would work for every meeting. It'd work tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, and so on and so forth. Meeting ID, I don't mess with this. I let it generate automatically because it generates a new one every time. I require passwords for my meetings, but you're working with students, you probably don't need this one. It's not that important to you. Video, this is the most important section here. This is the default setting. So by default, host and participant videos are off. I can turn them on like I did for you guys. I can turn yours off and leave mine on, or vice versa. So again, when I was talking earlier about student videos, if you're going to record a session and you're going to post it onto YouTube and put a link out there, you definitely want student videos off. Now, let's say you want to do a meet and greet with your kiddos and you got permission to do that, and you do that first. Can you turn their videos off later? Yes, you can. I'll show you that setting inside the actual chat in a few minutes. But that's that setting feature there. Audio, you want to leave both on because I was just talking to somebody earlier. They were hosting a meeting. Nobody could hear them. I said, well, call them with your telephone. So you could actually be on your computer for the video and use your telephone for the audio if you have a bad connection, or maybe you have one of those, I don't know why I keep hearing the Lenovo ThinkPads. Some schools have those. Their microphones are terrible from what I understand. So you may have to dial in, and every call today I've had somebody dial in because they didn't have internet or something like that. I know my own boss had to go to ISC today because her whole neighborhood lost power. So if that thing happens, they can still call in. Meeting options. Never, never enable join before host. Never do this one. This is a bad idea. What would happen if you enable that one is students could come into the chat before you're even there, and they can have a conversation without you. Bad, bad, bad idea. Don't do this one. No. Mute participants on entry. I always check that one because that means you guys came in with a muted microphone. I didn't hear blah, 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 blah all at once. Okay. Enable waiting room. There is some debate about this in the district. In working with this program as long as I have and intensively for the last week and a half, I've never seen where students can talk to each other in the waiting room. But somebody said they can, so they're discouraging you using the waiting room. But I think of it this way. Let's say I have a class of 20 students and there's 2 or 3 I want to help ahead of time for 2 or 3 minutes. Before everyone else comes in, the waiting room is a way to do it because you can admit students individually if you want to. I don't use authenticated users. We'll talk about breakout rooms later. And last but not least, record the meeting automatically. If you want to make sure every meeting you do records automatically, you would click this button right here, and that would make sure everything records on your computer no matter what. Okay? So I'm going to save my settings, and it's going to take me to the summary page, my summary page for my meeting. So here's my meeting title. Here's the date and time. Here's the calendar reminds. Here's the meeting ID, the password, the link, and of course, invitation. So if I want to send this to my students, all I got to do is click copy invitation, and then I can copy and paste this into Edsby, and I'll show you guys that in just a moment. By the way, you see dial your location, everything below here. You don't need any of this stuff. It's really useless information. You can delete it for them. All they need is the information above this line, because both these numbers work almost anywhere you can use them. So I'll show you in a minute where you're going to paste that ID when we get out of this screen. The bottom just shows you the summary of your meeting. You can always go back and edit it. You can also start it right from this page. Second tab, the settings tab. This one's very important as well, and I've left mine pretty much the way it comes. So that way you guys can see the settings if you don't touch it. Notice I can permanently set up things. Like if I always want my video on, I could do that. If I always want my video off and I have to determine later whether to do it, I can do that. These are default settings. So if I do this, every meeting I set up now is going to have my video set to be on unless I change it. That join before host, again, make sure this is off. You don't want that one there. There's some other settings down here that are really important. The chat feature. If you want to turn off the chat feature, you can turn it off here, and it will automatically be off when you go into your settings and do a new meeting. Private chat. I'll talk about that in a minute. You definitely don't want that enabled. You don't want kids private chatting with each other. That's a bad, bad idea. A little further down, co-host. Let's say you have a co-teacher and you both want to control the Zoom session. You can enable this and invite them as a co-host. I've not done that because I don't have co-hosts. I have people just monitoring the chat, so they're in as a participant, just like you guys. Down here, screen sharing, extremely important. This is a default setting. Notice anyone can share, and only the host has power to stop somebody from sharing. You're going to want to click this button right here, host only, and click save. And the reason behind that is we've had 2 incidents this week already of students sharing inappropriate content. They did that because they were on all participants and they could share whenever they wanted to. And so you want to be very careful. I don't care what grade your kids are in. They'll find a way to find something on the internet that's inappropriate. And their parents are thinking, no, my kids don't go to that website. Well, you don't monitor what your kid does on the internet. You all know what I'm talking about. So that's a really important thing to set it up. I'm going to put mine back only so for the next class it's set up that way. I can disable screen share for users, so other people in my chat. I can turn off the annotation feature. We'll talk about that in a moment. I can not let them share a whiteboard. So there's a lot of sharing features here I can turn off for students by default, so they won't have that opportunity. The last thing I want to show you guys down here is in meeting advanced, and that's the breakout room feature. So this is kind of like you went to Publix today, you forgot your wallet and your money at home. You can't buy no matter what, right? You can't buy, and they're not going to say, I'll come back later with money. You have to go home and get it. But let's say you went to Publix with your wallet, they didn't have any toilet paper, and you went home without it. You had an option. You could have bought something. You could have bought something else. You didn't want it. You didn't want the cheap one-ply toilet paper. I understand that, okay? You get enough of that at school. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be playing here all afternoon, guys. So you can turn this feature on. If you turn it on, you'll get a button in your host settings, not participants like you guys now, host settings, where you can use this feature if you want to. But if it's off like this, it definitely will not be there. You won't have even an option for it, okay? So that's it on this page. Up at the top of your screen, you also have a resources section where you can download the Zoom client. And the easiest way to explain the importance of this, ladies and gentlemen, is many of you use First Class Ideas district email, and you go to a website. In other words, you log in using Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari. You use a web browser to access our email system. And while you can read your email that way, you can't quite go to PDS, can you? You can't do certain things when you're using First Class on a web browser. So what you have to do is download the client software, the actual client, and go through the First Class program, and then you can access PDS and some other features. Well, the same thing is true here. Some of the features I'm going to show you today are only available if you use the client software. If you are doing it through the web browser, through Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, you're not going to have some of the same features. So I definitely recommend you download the Zoom client to your computer and install it. If you're using a tablet like an iPhone, iPad, or an Android phone, Android tablet, they have a client available as well. You can go into the Play Store or the App Store and download that as well. The major differences is, and the reason why I use a computer for my chats, for hosting my chats, is because I'd love to be sitting on my back porch in the mornings, right? It's much nicer. It's cool, it's nice, but I can't do that because on my iPad, it doesn't have true multitasking. So right now I'm clicking in different windows, getting things ready for you guys in the background, and you still see me moving around and talking like I was before. I did this on my iPad with my students. And the first time I did it, and these are adult students, I went and changed screens and my face got like this. The next time it got like this. And so it freezes you when it changes the window. And so I had to learn to go like this before I would freeze the window and move to a different window. So the client gives you that option to stay in this piece like this and have that opportunity. All right, I'm going to bring you guys back to me again, and I'm going to share a different screen with you. And this one is going to show you the EDSB interface. This is the EDSB dashboard. So when you're in here, we talked about that link you might want to share. You would type that link in right here. You would determine which class you want to post it to, and you would share it. So if you were doing a web chat, a webinar on Zoom for just one class period, you would select that one class period. You might have it available as office hours. You might select all your class periods or your morning and afternoon class. You can also over here send an email. You can send an email to students and parents if your parents are registered. So I'm talking to you primary teachers right now. You're thinking, I know many of my little kindergartner parents are going to want to be on there with their kiddos. They can join too. Students and parents do not need a Zoom account to join your chat. Only you need it to host it. So anybody can join your chat if you send them that link that we were just talking about in the website. That's an important feature. So some of you right now, I am really, really big. I am really, really big in your screen. I'm huge. Others of you, you're looking at the Brady Bunch, okay? In that case, if I'm looking at the Brady Bunch, MC Cross, you are Alice the maid, Carrie is Mrs. Brady, and Leslie Monroe, I'm sorry, you are Mr. Brady. And everybody else, you are the Brady children. So I have a Brady Bunch thing going on called Gallery View. So you can toggle that feature, and there's two ways it looks. This is the speaker view. So if you're in this view, whoever has the floor looks really huge, and then you have a small window for yourself. If you are in the gallery view, it looks like one of these two. This is Carrie and I yesterday, day before playing around. And then this is a view of, just like I saw with you guys, the Brady Bunch. So what you can see up here in the top right-hand corner, it says speaker view. If I click this, it'll go back to this view right here. And if I click it when it says gallery, it'll go to this view right here. I like this view a whole lot better because if you're in speaker view, it tends to change the picture of whoever's speaking. And so if your kids are all talking at one time, you're going to have it changing like this. And it's going to be really annoying. And if you have sensitivity to flashing lights, you're going to have a problem with that piece. So I like the gallery view a whole lot better. I'm just talking, Paula sent me a message that many parents are not registered with EDSB. And so you may want to, in this process, encourage them to do that as you're sending out information. So thank you, Paula, for sending me that information.
It's a problem even at the middle school level.
Yeah, in middle school, high school even. Yep, definitely. Thank you. So let me go through each of the menus now so you understand what each menu does. This, again, is the host view. Your view probably looks different than this because I am the host. So these two buttons on the left are all about your audio and your video. It's your device only. It has nothing to do with your participants. So I can adjust my audio and video settings here. The invite button. This is, I started the meeting, I forgot to send the invite out, and now I can send it out to you later on. Manage participants. This is where I can manage who's in the chat and what's going on. That, by the way, is this window right here. This is the manage participants window. And you can see in this chat yesterday, we had 91 people. And then in our chat right now, we have 138. The red line through the microphone means their microphone is muted. The red line through the camera means their camera is off. So earlier I mentioned to you that you might want to start your chat with video and then turn off the video when you go to record for the lesson you're going to post online. If that's the case, here's the window where you're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to click each of these cameras and you're going to turn them off. You also have at the bottom a mute all and an unmute all feature. So those are some really neat things there in that window. Next, the share screen button. That's how you share items with the participants, and I'll show you that one in a little bit. Chat feature, we're using that right now. I'll show you some features of chat feature as well. Pause, stop recording. This is because I'm recording you right now. I have this button, but there's always a record button here to record to your local computer. Breakout rooms. Remember earlier I mentioned if you don't set up the setting on the website, you will not get the breakout rooms. Here's where that one is. Reactions, that's like a thumbs up or a clapping emoji for people to use if they maybe like something you said, they got a problem right, whatever that is. And then finally, the end meeting button. When I'm done, I can click that and I will end my meeting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through each of these menus individually, and I've done screenshots from both Windows and Mac. I did that because I'm an Apple user. Everything I own is Apple, and so this is my Mac, my iMac screen right now that you're looking at. And it's dark, and that's because I use dark mode. It's a lot more easy on my eyes. I look at the screen all day long, and so dark mode makes it easier for me. If you're on a Windows machine, though, it may look more like this with a lighter background. So here's a screenshot from Windows looking at the microphone settings. So this is the first menu for you. Remember, this is all about your microphone settings. So you can select a different microphone if you want. Earlier, I had a principal on with me. She was using a headset with a microphone. You would select that in here of which one you want to use. Same thing for your output. Now for me, I'm using just my computer audio. So I'm using the speakers in the computer and the microphone in the computer. I've not changed these settings. And then down here, you can test your speakers and microphone. You can also switch to phone audio. We mentioned that earlier. If you're having a hard time with audio, you can call in and get the audio that way. So that's a really neat piece about the audio settings. The next one is the video settings. And this is the setting on my Mac, again, dark mode. But you can see when you click on the arrow next to stop video, you get 3 settings. One is which camera you want to use. My computer only has 1 camera. Choose a virtual background. I'll show you in just a moment. And then video settings. You want to change some of your video settings. There's even a touch-up feature in there. Down here, this is the Windows version. Again, same exact menus. They're just in a little bit different order and a light background. So I'm going to bring us back to the main group, and I'm going to change my virtual background for you. And let's see where I'm going today. Oh, I'm going to the Magic Kingdom. There we go. Since I'm missing Disney right now and really missing it. Thank you, Rhonda. Yep, I agree. So here we go. I'm in front of the Magic Kingdom. Now, 2 things to know about virtual backgrounds. Number 1, your computer may or may not be able to do this. My MacBook Air is 6 years old. It cannot handle this feature. My iMac can. You also have to have the latest software downloaded at zoom.us. Zoom.us, that resources tab, download the latest software. You cannot do this feature on the web. This is only something that works in the client software. So that's number 1. Number 2, you must be cognizant and careful of what you are wearing and what you are sitting in front of. So Monday, I had this poor lady. She was wearing a shirt that matched the wall behind her. I had a head floating, okay? A head floating in the picture, kind of like Harry Potter, okay? So you get that piece. But worse yet, yesterday, this poor lady was so pale, she matched the wall, and all I saw was her hair and her shirt. Even worse, right? Can you imagine looking at that all day? This one lady who was on earlier with us, her hair matched the wall, and her hair disappeared into the background. And so just, you know, play with this before you actually do it in front of students. That's a really important thing to think about. Now, to look at this menu again and where you get it, again, first of all, you click the up arrow next to stop video, and you choose virtual background. Choose virtual background. When you do that, you will get a window looking something like this, okay? And again, this is the main screen. If you have the latest client software, it comes with some images already, and the rest are ones that we've taken or downloaded. In fact, you know what, Paula? I forgot. I was supposed to change mine to something else. You sent me a picture earlier, and give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, because there is one I definitely want to show you that Paula sent me. Let's see if I can. Oh, there it is. Yeah, my new favorite ride at Disney World, Rise of the Resistance. Okay. Back to my sharing. So again, I have these pictures in here. I can add them by clicking on the plus. I can download images from the web. I can do my own images. The one thing about them is they got to be landscape. And so I have this really great picture. I took a Cinderella castle. I was there one morning, early magic hours. Nobody's in front of the castle but me. Take a great picture. It's portrait. So what did this camera do to it, this program? It turned it on its side. And that's not a good thing. So you definitely want to look at your images ahead of time before you do that. And that's virtual backgrounds in the menu under video. So we're going to keep moving forward now. We're going to go to the Manage Participants tab. And that's what I'm showing you in here, Manage Participants. So I'm going to scroll in and have you guys look over here at this side of it. This is that window. So before you guys came into our chat, you were in a waiting room. In this case, Barb and I were in the meeting, but today it was Carrie and I. You can see in this video, Barb is camera off, but video microphone's on, I'm sorry. And then I am recording everything. I can send a message to you guys. If you got the message from me in the waiting room, that's how I did it. I clicked this button and said, we'll admit you shortly. I can admit you all at the same time. It's right here. I click this button and everybody comes in at one time. I can also mute you all at the same time and unmute you all at the same time. So that's an important feature. I'm going to go to the next window with these controls kind of blown up a little bit. All right. So here's that same window. And you can see when I click on the More tab, I get these additional options. Let me go over them with you very quickly. This is that mute on entry. We've done that one already. Allow participants to unmute themselves. I've turned this off for you guys. Can you imagine 139 of you trying to talk at the same time? I never get through. So I turn this off so you're not allowed to unmute yourself. Play, enter, exit chime. I don't use that one, but you can if you want to. My computer makes enough noises. Allow participants to rename themselves. I have it checked for you, but if I were doing this with students, I would uncheck it. Now, I taught between 5th and 9th grade, and I know my students. One or more would change their name to doofus or some other inappropriate thing. So I would uncheck this box for students, and I'm going to show you in a minute that I can change your names no matter what. Lock meeting means once the meeting starts, no one else can come in. And then this is that waiting room thing. When I turn this off, it turns off the waiting room and everybody gets dumped in automatically when they join the meeting as opposed to waiting in the waiting room. This is that same window again, only in Windows. And again, it looks very similar, just a different color and different organization how the window looks, but the same settings. I definitely don't like letting participants unmute themselves when I have a big group. Now, my class tonight with HCC I'll be doing, there's only 13 of them. I'll leave that button alone. They're adults. They should be able to handle muting themselves. Otherwise, I'll turn it on in that piece. So I'm going to exit out of here, come back to the main window, and I'm going to tell you guys that you can now rename yourself, and I'm going to tell you how. If you're on a computer, hover your mouse over your picture, click on the 3 dots up to the right, and then go and select rename. Now, Haley Dow, I'm going to rename you because I'm looking at yours right now. Are you Miss or Mrs.? Mrs.? Miss? No, Mrs. Okay. All right, so I'm renaming Haley Dow to Mrs. Dow, and there we go. It's done. I like Disney Girl down there. Thank you very much. But what you see here is you can rename yourself. So if you're going to do a meeting with students, you might want to rename yourself Mr. or Mrs. or whatever. I'm going to be working with my colleagues over at James on Tuesday doing a meeting with their kiddos, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to put my name is Dr. Richmond, how they know me. If you have that setting turned off, you can still rename the kids. I got the same 3-dot menu in the top right-hand corner, and I can rename any of you to make sure you have an appropriate name in there. The second thing I want to show you while we're in the screen is that students can actually raise a virtual hand. And so if you click on the participant menu, click on the participant menu at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a tablet or phone at the top of the screen, you can click on and raise your virtual hand. It looks like this. And so what that does for me is that shows me, like, Miss Barbara, you raised your hand. I'm going to lower your hand. Hi, Miss Barbara. How are you? You can talk now if you want.
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Dow, there you are. I unmuted you. How are you?
Doing great.
All right. Fantastic. Glad to have you here. So this is a great feature. Miss Rhonda Moore, I'm unmute you now. Hi, Rhonda.
Hello.
All right, so a great feature, if you ask a question, you could then have the kids raise a virtual hand, and you can then lower their hand and unmute them, let them talk, and then mute them back. So it's a great way to teach them how to take turns and not turn everybody's microphone off at the same time. This is what my screen looks like when your hand is up and I go to lower it. So when I hover over you and your hand's up, it says lower hand. I have a mute and unmute button over here, and then I have the same 3-dot thing in the corner you guys have or are used to. So again, another useful feature you can use with your students. Now we're going to move on to the chat feature. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and you can see this is the chat window, an empty chat window. Barb and I were getting ready to start our session when we did this one, and you can see right now I'm going to send a message to everyone. It's really important you set up the settings here on this window, because this is where you can determine what participants can and cannot do. So right now, Sam Weiss and I are having a private chat. But you see Mrs. Hickey here was chatting to everyone, and Mary chatted to everyone. Over here on the right, you have a 3-dot button. There's a lot of these 3-dot buttons. You click on it, and you get these options. All right, participants can chat with. Now, these are hierarchical, meaning that if I click no one, it is no one. If I click host only, it means they can only message me privately. If I click everyone publicly, they can send public messages and to me privately. And finally, the last one, which I would never, ever, ever use, is everyone publicly and privately, because that means the students can do this without you seeing what they do. It won't record it, nothing will be there, you won't know about it. And so you definitely don't want to have this last one done. You can set this up in the meeting. You can also set it up ahead of time on the website. Both can happen. And here's that same menu again, only in a Windows version. And so you can again see this same process looking here in the chat. By the way, if some of you were chatting privately to me, you're probably wondering, why hasn't Scott responded? Because Scott is not using his keyboard. He's only using his mouse and talking. I'm not monitoring private chats. Paula and Carrie can't see private chats. They can only see the everyone group. So if you've messaged me privately, I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get us through everything. And then Carrie and Paula are answering your questions. The next feature is the share feature, probably one of the most useful things to you guys, sharing documents. So the really cool thing about Zoom is you can share almost anything on your computer. So this is a Windows version, and notice I could share the whole screen. I can share a virtual whiteboard. I could share a connected device like my iPhone, iPad, even an Elmo. And I can share a Google Chrome window. So that's the one on my Windows machine. Now here's my Mac, and you can see I have a whole lot more windows open. I can share Word documents. I can share PowerPoints. I can share PDF files. I can share a virtual whiteboard. I can share many things that we can work on with students together. But there's a couple of key things about the sharing feature you want to see first, and that's the menus. So just like every other piece on here, there's an up arrow next to my share screen menu. When I click that, I have these settings. One participant at a time, multiple participants can share simultaneously. When it is set this way, your participants can share. They cannot interrupt each other. You can interrupt them. So that's an important thing to know. You can always have power over them. But when I click on advanced sharing options, I get this menu. And this is where participants can share or not share. And notice what I've changed here. I've changed it to host only. So I mentioned earlier that the 2 incidents that have happened already have been because students have shared inappropriate content with their classmates. And that's because all participants was on. I highly recommend you take it to host only, and then that way no one else can share but you. So that's an important piece to understand as well. We're going to go into the virtual whiteboard next. When we do that, you're going to have a chance to annotate my whiteboard as well. Yesterday, I was viewing Paula's screen, and we did the screenshot. When this happens and I give you the virtual whiteboard, you're going to get a menu up here that says View Options. When you click on View Options, you're going to be able to annotate. So you click on Annotate, you can annotate my screen. So I'm going to do that now and take in the virtual whiteboard, and you're going to see how it works. So notice I can type in text. I can write in answers, and very shortly y'all will figure this one out too. I can put stickers and stamps on there. And again, you want to go to where it says options at the top of your screen and then annotate. And I see somebody is finally getting in there and joining me. Nice heart, there you go. And so this virtual whiteboard is kind of neat. Now there's one bad thing to it. I don't know who's writing what. There's 130 some odd of you. I have no idea who's writing what. But it does give us an option to collaborate on things together. Now, let's say by accident, I closed the whiteboard. Oops, I lost everything. Nope, I didn't. As long as I haven't ended my session, it's still there waiting for me. I can save my virtual whiteboard. So if we've done some problems together on here, I can save the whiteboard. I can also clear everything out on the whiteboard and let you guys start again from scratch. So while you guys are writing on this and playing around with the feature, let me kind of talk about a couple ways this annotate feature will work positively for you. Many of you elementary folks were getting ready for the writing assessment after spring break. And of course, now that's not going to happen. Show me you're all sad. You're not going to do a writing test. Come on, show me you're sad. I know you're really sad. But I was working with my colleagues at James Elementary School on opinion pieces. And so imagine taking one of those opinion articles as a PDF. You show it to your students. You go in and annotate and text mark the first paragraph. I'm going to underline this, check plus, it's for the opinion. I'm going to underline this, check minus, it's against the opinion. And you do a paragraph, and then you say, okay, now Carrie, you do paragraph 2. Paula, you do paragraph 3. Johnny, you do paragraph 4. And you guys can collaborate together on that same screen. So that's a very important thing. Math teachers, you can have a PDF of 6, 7, 8, 9 problems. You can write the students' names next to them, and they can go and solve the problem in real time. Reading, science, social studies, you guys can do an article together or look at the book together and have conversations about the content and mark up the reading while you're doing things. So you have a lot of options on here for that piece. Now, you can enable sharing for your students. I'm going to turn it back on right now, and the first person to get in the share gets to share now, and we'll see what's on your screen. Click on share screen down at the bottom. There we go. All right. Thank you, Carla Gonzalez. There we go. So watch. Oh, she went away. Great. She learned how to stop sharing too. Anybody else? Thank you, Denise. So watch this, though. I can actually annotate on Denise's screen as well. So I can do that stuff too. We can have that same conversation about things. And let's say a teacher asked me earlier if they want to show on their kindergartners how to go on iReady. You could use this feature for that as well. Go ahead and click stop share if you would, please, Denise. Thank you. Anybody else? I'll give one more time. All right. Thank you very much, Rhonda. And again, watch, I can write on Rhonda's screen as well. Somebody said I can't write on it. There are some devices like Chromebooks that will not allow you to have this feature. So it's not something every machine can do, but it is something that a lot of machines can do. So that's a good point there. If depending upon the machine, they might not be able to do that. And the virtual whiteboard, by the way, I'm going to share back my screenshots with you. It is found in the sharing menu, and then here's the virtual whiteboard, and here it is again on the Windows version in the sharing screen menu, and then virtual whiteboard. That's where it's going to be found. All right, so that's sharing. The last feature I want to share with you is the breakout room. And over the time I've been sharing this feature, I have learned 1 or 2 ways this could be very useful to you. If you are a co-teacher, or you have a paraprofessional you work with regularly, or an ELL teacher you work with regularly, you could go into a chat together. Let's say you have 35 students between you. And you could say, well, these 7 ESC students are going to go with the ESC teacher in one breakout room, and the other 28 are going to stay with me in the main room. And doing that would give those students individualized instruction. You could also break it up multiply. You could do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. What this does for you, when you click on the breakout room icon, this thing right here, you get this window. I can assign my participants into rooms automatically or manually. Now, of course, there's 130 some odd of you in here. I'm not doing it manually. I'll do it automatically. But what I could do if I was a teacher with a co-teacher, I could do this and assign my co-teacher to one room with the students and me to the other room with the students. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put us into breakout rooms, and I'm going to let you have some discussions while you guys are in there. You will realize 2 things when you go into breakout rooms. Number 1, you can immediately unmute yourself and have a conversation. You can unmute yourself and have a conversation. Number 2, you can also share items in there, such as the whiteboard. The sharing feature becomes open to you again, even though I've locked it in this window where we are together. So I'm going to create the breakout rooms and send you there now, and I'll pop into a couple of them, and then we'll come back. Hello, breakout room 1. You guys can unmute yourselves and say hello and have a conversation while you're in here.
Hello.
Yep,
Hello.
I will be back. I'm going to go to a different breakout room, okay?
All right. Okay.
Well,
I guess we just need to
Hello,
talk.
Breakout Room 2.
Hi.
Oh, hey there. How are you?
Good.
Are you little Mrs. Ellis?
Good.
What are you guys doing? Who's this strange guy keeps coming in my living room?
So
Hello,
everybody just
Breakout Room 6. Oh, hey, Carrie.
hey.
Carrie and I ended up in the same one with TK.
Oh, that's funny. Look at that. I'm going to a different one then. Hey, Breakout Room 7.
Hey.
I found you guys. All right. I'm going to give you another minute, and then I'm going to come bring you all back to me, okay?
Okay. Thanks.
Posted it on the wall on
Hey, Breakout Room 10.
Oh, okay. That actually, hey.
All right. I'm going to bring you guys back now, okay? All right, I think most of you are back now. The rest are coming back as we do that. So you can see the breakout room has a great feature, but I want to make sure you understand two things about breakout rooms. Number one, if you are not in a breakout room, you can't see what's going on there. Also, if you're recording like I am, the record feature only works in the breakout room I'm in. So for example, when I popped into breakout room 1 or breakout room 6, it recorded that part. It didn't record the parts when I wasn't in the breakout room with you guys. So you have to understand that this adult thing is really important, and you want to have a conversation with your colleagues at your school about how you may or may not use this feature. Now, when you guys were in the breakout rooms, this is the window that I was able to look at to see who was where. And notice at this point, I was in breakout room number 3. I can leave that room. I can join a different room. I can click on Donna Caldwell and put her in a different room. And I can close all rooms and go back and bring you guys back like I did. So a neat feature you can use if you want to, especially as somebody working with you. But obviously, if you're working on your own, it might be difficult because who knows what your students will be doing in those various rooms. The last thing I want to show you is the record feature. So when you choose to record your session, when the program is done and you exit, it'll take about 15 minutes to process the video. And then it'll create a folder for you under Documents called Zoom. Doesn't matter if it's Windows or Mac. It goes in Documents, Zoom. And notice they're all done by date and time. And in each folder, it gives you an audio file, a text of the chat feature, and a Zoom video. Now, you can rename the Zoom video. So I renamed all mine by the date and time, obviously. And you can then use that video like in YouTube or something like that. I'll talk about in a second. The video file is an MP4. Now, if you don't know what that means, it just means it's a universal video file. It can be used in any format. Any device can pretty much read an MP4. So you can upload it to YouTube. Because of various things happening in various programs, such as First Class having its issues, EDSB having its issues, my advice is this. If you want to film yourself in a lesson, I would upload that lesson to YouTube. I would create a professional YouTube account. And then I would go in and upload my videos there because YouTube, I don't care how much traffic is on that site. I've never seen YouTube have a problem with lag. They have so much ability to do that. And then you can post the link for that into EDSB, and I'll show you that again in a moment. I can see you as teachers posting videos one of two ways. Number one, you could do the exact same stuff I just did for 45 minutes with no audience. No audience. And just record it. And then you can post that video to YouTube and share it to all your classes. Or you can come on with your first period class or your morning class and have videos on for 5 minutes. Hi guys, how are you? Good to see you. Turn videos off and then go and record and upload that video to YouTube with the student videos turned off. These files tend to be about 500 megabytes for an hour chat is what they're ranging at for me. And it's taking YouTube anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to process them. So it's not that big of a deal. Once you get into YouTube and do that, I mean, YouTube is so easy. You just drop and drag stuff in there. And if you need help, you can always email me. But this is that same EDSB screen again. So once you're done with the YouTube video, you can post the link in here. You can send it to any class and hit share. It'll show up on their dashboard so they can see that link and go watch it. You can also email it to students and parents so they can see the videos you're doing. By the way, I thought about this in the last chat we were doing, and it came up as a great point. What if I want to do a video with no audience? You can do that. You can just turn on a fake chat like I did and record a chat. and then you want to post it. And now next year at this time, you have students who are out on a day you're doing a lesson, the same content. You can have that same link and share it with them on Edsby, and they can get the lesson like they were in school. So there's a lot of good to this, us being stuck at home doing this kind of stuff. I am going to stop my recording now. I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice about this program and its